In the scorching heat of the Sinai desert, a group of former slaves wailed under the vast, unyielding sky. The exodus from Egypt, which had begun with the miraculous parting of the Red Sea, now seemed like a cruel joke. The Israelites, once elated by their newfound freedom, found themselves lost in a desolate wilderness, their stomachs empty and their spirits broken. They had traded the oppression of Pharaoh for the uncertainty of the desert. It was in this moment of desperation that their faith was tested, and their relationship with God reshaped. The journey of the Israelites from Egypt to the Promised Land is a tale of both human frailty and divine providence. Each step in the desert was a step towards a new identity, a new covenant, and a new understanding of God. The initial exodus was a spectacular demonstration of God's power, with the Red Sea parting to allow the Israelites to escape the pursuing Egyptian army. But the real test began once they were free. The wilderness was a crucible that refined their faith and forged a people out of a disparate group of former slaves. As they wandered, the Israelites faced numerous challenges. The first of these was the lack of water at Marah. The name Marah means bitter, and the water was indeed undrinkable. This was more than just a physical trial. It was a test of their trust in God. Moses, the leader chosen by God, was called upon to intervene. He threw a piece of wood into the water, and it became sweet. This act was not just a miracle. It was a symbol of God's presence and provision. The bitterness of their situation was transformed into a source of sustenance. The next challenge came in the form of hunger. The Israelites, accustomed to the regular supply of food in Egypt, found themselves in a barren land with no means of sustenance. Their complaints echoed through the wilderness, a chorus of dissatisfaction and fear. God responded by providing manna, a mysterious substance that appeared on the ground each morning. The manna was a daily reminder of God's care and a test of their obedience. They were instructed to gather only what they needed for the day, and not to hoard it. This discipline was meant to teach them to trust in God's provision and to live in the present, without fear of the future. The manna was not just food. It was a symbol of God's covenant. The Israelites were to gather it every day, except on the Sabbath, when they were to rest. This observance of the Sabbath was a fundamental aspect of their new identity as a people set apart for God. It was a day of rest, a day to reflect on God's goodness and to renew their faith. The Sabbath was a weekly reminder that their lives were not defined by their labor, but by their relationship with God. Throughout their journey, the Israelites faced many other trials, attacks from hostile tribes, internal divisions, and moments of doubt. Each challenge was an opportunity for them to grow in faith and to understand God's character more deeply. God's response to their needs was always timely and sufficient, though not always in the way they expected. The manna, the water from the rock, and the cloud by day and the fire by night were all signs of God's constant presence and care. The story of the Israelites in the wilderness is a powerful reminder of the human tendency to murmur and complain, even in the face of overwhelming evidence of God's goodness. It is also a testament to God's patience and grace. Despite their grumbling, God continued to provide for them, to guide them, and to shape them into a people who would one day enter the promised land. In the end, the wilderness was not just a physical place, but a spiritual journey. It was a time of testing, of learning, and of transformation. The Israelites emerged from the wilderness not just as a group of freed slaves, but as a nation with a shared history, a common identity, and a deep faith in the God who had delivered them. The wilderness was a crucible, and from it emerged a people who knew the depth of God's love and the height of His power. The journey was long and hard, but it was worth it. For in the end, the wilderness was not the end of their story, but the beginning of a new chapter in their relationship with God. In the end, the wilderness was a place of purification, a place where the Israelites learned to trust in God's provision and to walk in His ways. It was a journey that transformed them, and it is a journey that continues to inspire and challenge us today. The wilderness is a reminder that God is with us, even in our darkest moments, and that He will lead us to the promised land.